Here's a segment from the latest edition of St. Charles Parish Today, a monthly local talk show.
When the skies are clear, we trust them to compile plans and drills that we hope to never use. And when the parish is in a state of emergency, we trust them to lead us to safety. By now, you probably know that emergency preparedness has long been ingrained in the culture of St. Charles Parish, with our Emergency Operations Center being the only 24-hour local department in the state of Louisiana. We've taken you on scene of their drills and written about their plans, but now we'll learn about a committee they head up, and we'll also learn about the voice they have at our state level. Today I'm joined by EOC Director Joe Ganote and Senior Emergency Coordinator Jim Polk. Well guys, thanks for coming and joining me on the set at St. Charles Parish today. Jim, this is your first time you've been on here?
It is. Good to be here,
6 years is what it took to get you on here. Okay, before we talk about the committee that put this together, you guys mailed this out in late December.
Correct.
Can you tell me what's included in this?
So it's a quick 11-page guide for our residents to refer to in any type of emergency. I know we always talk about hurricanes and things like that, but there's some other things that they need to be aware of, such as any type of health emergency or an industrial emergency that we may have. So it's a great guide for them to go to, gives them some instructions and direction, also allows them to know where to go to get more information, such as Facebook, Twitter, and things like that.
You touched on this in your answer, but as residents in South Louisiana, I would say most people are generally concerned with severe weather being our biggest risk. But as you mentioned, this guide goes beyond that. How important is it for people to be aware of what might happen here, other than severe weather?
So we're always prepared for the hurricanes because they visit us every 6 months. So we live that type of lifestyle here. We know we're vulnerable. However, we do have some other emergencies that we have to be aware of, such as industrial. So even though safety is the #1 key for all industrial facilities, and they do a great job, you still have to be prepared for any type of accident that could happen. And then you have other emergencies, such as type of flus or West Nile or Zika.
Terrorism.
And then you have terrorism, unfortunately, that could visit us.
Okay, so this guide, the All Hazards Guide, was mailed out as part of this guide, not to confuse everybody. The Industry Aware. Can you tell me what was in this guide and who produced it? Because I think that's also important to cover.
So that was the vision of our local emergency planning commission and our committee and the LEPC. And it was their vision to put something out where they could highlight industry and what, because they're such a big part of our community, and they can highlight and showcase what they do, not only in their work and their business, but also what they do in the community.
So you mentioned LEPC. Who's on LEPC?
So LEPC is a committee formed of local governments, such as Sheriff's Office, Fire Department. You also have environmental people from the environmental, Port of South Louisiana. I'm sure I'm missing a few in there, but there's several people within the community who have a vested interest in what goes on in the industrial corridor.
Okay, Jim, I'm going to turn to you.
Okay.
I want to congratulate you on being reappointed by the governor to the Louisiana Emergency Response Commission.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, let's go ahead and assume that not a lot of people know what the Louisiana Emergency Response Commission is. Can you tell us a little bit about what this organization does?
The LERC is very similar to the LEPC, which we just spoke about, except it is the state level of LEPC. So it is mandated. It is a federal law that, in simple terms, puts it, hey, let's get together, let's have certain groups of people in the state get together and talk about hazardous materials, how they affect our communities, and what we can do together to make our communities safe as in dealing with hazardous materials.
How do we benefit as St. Charles Parish from having you on there? Because, like you said, it's similar to LEPC, so I assume that you take some of the things from the state level and bring them down to our local planning commission.
Well, it's fortunate that I'm able to bring this back to St. Charles Parish. Like I said, you're appointed by the governor to this commission. Originally, I was appointed in 2013 by Governor Jindal, recently by Governor Edwards, again reappointed. And you're on there with the state police, with the DEQ, the Secretary of the Department of Environmental Quality, lots of other emergency responders from throughout the state. I'm actually appointed, there's 19 members to the commission. I'm actually a representative of the Louisiana Emergency Preparedness Association, or LEPA, as a representative of them, which I sit on the board of directors for this association. So it's very good that, yes, I am a representative of LEPA officially on the commission, but I bring the local government aspect of, you know, what's going on in hazardous materials, regulations, things that are going to shape future laws and stuff that might affect how we protect our citizens in the state of Louisiana.
You mentioned LEPA, which I was going to get to. What does LEPA do? What role do they play in the state emergency level?
So the Louisiana Emergency Preparedness Association, or LEPA, is a group of emergency officials, emergency responders from industry, from local government, from all levels of government, who have, you know, one thing in common, that they handle emergency situations. And we've learned that in the state of Louisiana, when we have a major emergency like we've had, it takes everybody to come together, whether private, public, state, local, federal. And that's what this association focuses on. Hey, let's have this networking ahead of time and understand who all the players are, what's everybody's job, how they function together. So when an actual incident happens, we're familiar with each other and what your capabilities are. And you know, I get on the phone and call, and it's not, who's Jim? Well, hey, I know Jim, and we understand. So it really helps in time of emergency.
And this is something that we've discussed personally before, but when emergencies happen around the country or the world, how do we look at how other nations or states or local governments, how do we look at their response and take that back to St. Charles Parish? Because I know that there's always kind of a continuous improvement as far as plans and things like that. Joe,
Well,
yeah.
I think it's important to look at other communities and how they respond to things. We can always learn from others. Fortunately, we don't have a lot of things that go on here, and so we don't have a lot to draw from. So we draw from others. They'll draw up after action reports, and we have the opportunity to review those, so we don't make those mistakes if any were made. And we may be doing some things that they don't do, that we may want to rethink and change the way we do. We're always looking to change and make things better and more safe.
I mean, in the 20 years of emergency management, I mean, that's a hallmark kind of emergency management. You're always looking at this major incident happened in another state or whatever. You want to read those after action reports to see, hey, these things went well, or these things went not so well. And you learn that, wow, I never really thought about that might happen, and you try to do something to address that before it happens. Much like the recent fires in Tennessee, and they had an issue with, you know, putting out some of their warnings on telephone and all that stuff. You know, we read and look and study these things to hopefully not have those obstacles or those issues when we do an emergency. So it's important to study things that happen around the nation, around the world, really.
That's kind of a continuous learning experience.
Never ends. Every incident, you're looking for more.
Good. Well, look, thanks for coming on the show with me
Thank you,
today.
Tristan.
Thank you.
Look for the entire episode at www.scptoday.com or on SCP TV.